your kid coming up to you after you've been at the pool all day long. Your kid got ice cream, your kid got a soda. They've been playing in the pool for 6 hours.
And they say, can I have a cookie?
What are we doing next? What are we doing next? I'm taking a nap. That's what we're doing next, right?
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or therapy. Our full disclaimer can be found in the show notes. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Man Up Together podcast. My name is Alex Peskin. I'm here with my lifelong friend and co-host, Bobby Jacobs. Bobby, we are recording 2 days before Father's Day.
Yep.
This is coming out 2 days after Father's Day. So people are listening to this the week after Father's Day or later.
Yep.
If later, come on, guys.
Yeah, get on it.
Drop day is when it's freshest. But anyway,
You don't want anybody to spoil it for you.
Exactly. Gets in the zeitgeist of the country. And whenever you listen to this, we truly appreciate your support. And just remember, if you hit that subscribe button, it actually is really, really useful for us and for other people who would be able to listen to this as well. So thank you very much for that. Hey, what are you doing for Father's Day?
So this year, we're going to celebrate Father's Day. It starts Saturday evening. We're going to go out for dinner with my brother-in-law and his wife and their little one. I think we're going to play it chill. I'm actually going out of town that evening for work. I was supposed to leave earlier in the day. Made my flight a couple months ago. And I didn't realize it was Father's Day. Saw that it was Father's Day. And I was like, I could switch that up. So I'm leaving later in the day for a work trip. Father's Day is a weird day for me. For you,
Sure, yeah.
Not to speak for you. I think for me, it's just about spending as much time with the girl as I can, whatever that looks like, whatever they want to do.
Enjoying your
I don't know. What about you?
Good. Yeah. There's been some secret activities happening
Oh, really?
with my family over this week. There was a time where they had just finished camp and I was coming home from work a little bit early. I was like, oh, where are you girls? I can meet up with you. They're like, sorry, you can't come. We're doing something secret. Things like that have been happening.
I can't imagine what it's associated with.
I went to get something out of the trunk for my wife today and said, no, don't go in there. So I'm excited.
There's something.
things.
Something's happening.
Yeah, but I think we're going to do some breakfast and then have lunch and some mini golf with my father-in-law.
Nice.
So that'll be nice. And it's nice to be appreciated. It's weird for me as well because I would like to have at least one more person to celebrate that with.
Yeah.
But also, I didn't really spend, I know that you didn't either. I didn't really spend Father's Day with my dad so much because we were always at camp.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point. Growing up, we were always at camp. And so I think Father's Day is definitely a reminder of you don't know what you got till it's gone type of a thing for me.
Oh my gosh.
And, my wife asked me and I was being kind of a snarky asshole, but she said, we want to do Father's Day. I'm like, I don't know anything about that. Which
You asked, I will give you the answer.
Right?
Yeah.
It's always been one of these. It's a weird thing. I got to ask you a question. Have you gotten a Father's Day gift that you remember? As of now, I mean, it sounds like you got one coming, but is there a Father's Day gift that you've gotten since you've been a dad, 7 years now, that you remember?
So I'm thinking about cutting this part because I don't remember any. But I know at least someone's listening who won't like that. But no, the things that I do remember are things that the girls make.
Yeah.
They always make Mother's Day gifts in school right at the end of school.
Right.
So they also make Father's Day gifts and say, like, put this away. We don't want it to be uneven. And they ask them questions and like, what does your dad do? And what's his favorite this? And
Yeah.
very silly answers because they're young. And their little artwork. I like those kind of things. It just feels
Those
like
personal
meaningful
things.
and like from
Yeah,
their heart
I
and
agree.
very cute. I'm sure I've gotten lovely Father's Day gifts too, and I apologize for not remembering what they are.
But you remember the ones that mean something, right? And maybe that's the whole point. I have a pair of pajama pants with the girls' faces. And I forgot about them for probably a number of years. And I put them on a couple of weeks ago and my daughter's cracked up. My little one walks in and she goes, Daddy, that's me on your pants. And I was like, yeah, it's you on my pants.
I have socks with the girls' face on
Okay.
it. I assume that must have been a Father's Day.
There you go.
Maybe that's a part of it. The things that I like, I don't remember when I got them, but those socks probably were for Father's Day.
It's funny, right? Because you growing up and you make the gifts, right? We grew up in the time frame of like paint an ashtray. Again, who knows?
We made them out of clay.
Right? Like,
yeah.
but yeah, it's always those like handmade things that you're like, do I really love this? But then as a dad, I'm like, no, like these are the things that actually stick around and they feel good. So
Yeah, I remember I made one of those little things out of clay and painted it and gave it to my dad once. And when he died, I found it in his closet. He used it for at the cleaners, there's like plastic things.
yeah, the little shirt stains. Yeah,
He put them in. That he used it forever. It's a weird thing to use it for, but he used it forever, and that
I love that.
touched me a little bit.
I love that.
Well, like we appreciate the things that come
That's
from
it,
these little things
right?
that love us. Yeah,
Even if it's not used for its intended purpose.
exactly.
Which, thankfully, it wasn't used for its intended purpose. So I love it. Well, Father's Day it's a good day. We're going to talk about father figures in this episode. For me, there's going to be other people on Father's Day that I'll get to call and wish a father happy Father's Day too. So for the dads out there, happy Father's Day.
Yeah,
For the father figures out there, happy Father's Day.
Yeah. So we're gonna kind of connect a little of everything together in this episode with fathers slightly, at least father figures, like you're saying. And so today, for
Why do I like this?
we are going to talk about why do men like coaching their kids in sports? And it's something that was always a big part of my life
Your
growing
dad
up.
coach your baseball team.
My dad and lots of other people's dads did a lot of coaching. And now that my oldest daughter is playing sports, it's interesting for it to come back around in my life. And so it's cool to see. Why do men like this? Let's give that one a go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think easiest answer, we like spending time with our kids is the easy answer. But there's probably other ways to do that. My dad coached my Little League T-ball team. And I think it's because we like sports, for those of us that like sports. And I think it's a way for us to connect with our kids on a level that allows them to see that we like something, they like something, but like we also want to mentor them because that's an important part of that relationship. We want to watch them grow and nurture that growth and nurture something that's important to them. I also think there's a protective aspect of it there as well, where I want to make sure, I remember when my daughter went to kindergarten for the first time and I asked myself, like, why is this harder on me than I think it was going to be or thought it was going to be? And I boiled it down to, I'm not there to protect her anymore like I was at preschool, which I wasn't any differently than kindergarten. But I think at some level, it's like for me, it's like a protective mechanism. And I just want to make sure that whether you call it a helicopter parent or whatever it is, I still want to have that protective thing. I don't know, you coach your daughter. Tell me about you. Why do you coach your daughter?
That's interesting. I think maybe that doesn't resonate for me.
Okay.
And I'm glad.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting because I've done assistant coaching. I've never been the head coach, so I'm always just taking someone's lead.
So you bring out orange slices. Is that your?
No. That's the T parent.
Oh, okay, got it.
No,
one step up.
That's right. But for me, I know that I but I try not to be as directly involved, at least in practice, with her, because she will treat me like I'm her dad and not her coach.
Okay.
And so it was even just like maybe last weekend or 2 weekends ago, another coach and I were just warming up the girls. There were 6 of them. And I look over and I see my daughter's in a group of 3 and his daughter's in a group of 3. And I go, you take that one, I'll take this one. I took the one with his daughter. He took the one with mine because I think there's a different dynamic in there. And also, I know the things that she isn't as confident in, isn't as proficient in. And so also, like, it's kind of the opposite of protecting her. I'm like, be harder on her with that. Like, I have a relationship with the coaches and I can tell them, come on, get on her about that.
I like that.
And so it's interesting. But for me, then, thinking about why do men like this, I think about involvement, right? We're wanting to be involved with our kids. Yeah. So we're talking about all of this. Let's go into why this might be good. I think you named some of this and it like makes a lot of sense. Right. We're spending more time with our kids and we're being involved with them. And then we have things that we're sharing interests in. And I think there's a lot of room for connection over that one. But I think just maybe the main one that feels really important is what is the message we're sending to our kids?
I love that.
You matter enough to me that I want to be as involved as
Yeah.
possible. You matter enough to me that I'm going to be out there with you. Sometimes I imagine maybe that changes when they're older, or
Might
I
not.
don't know. Maybe they say it changes because they think that it's not cool.
Right.
But I think like on the nervous system level,
Yeah.
there's some form of security that they have.
You're
because
showing
they
up.
know, like,
Yeah, you're showing up, and you're not only are you showing up, but you're on the other side of the fence with them. And I
Yeah.
think that's part of it. I've gone to a couple of your daughter's games and watched you watch her, and you do a very good job of not getting overly involved, which I think is great. But I could absolutely see you when she's up to bat.
Oh my
A
gosh.
little bit of extra intensity there, and which is awesome. And so, yeah, I like that showing up aspect of it too, because sometimes it's hard, especially some of the activities that I know my daughters do, whether it's the dance or the gymnastics or things like that, where I'm sure there are ways for me to show up, but it's maybe not as straightforward as showing up in the coaching and a team, right? And so, and again, maybe this is just my short sighted that there are ways for me to show up to dance, and I could put some dance clothes on and dance with my daughter in dance class or gymnastics.
I don't know if that's a thing.
I don't know. Maybe it'd be weird. But
That's interesting. Like, there are classes
yeah,
that you send them to, and then there are things you get involved in, and there's a difference. And
Yeah.
so
one of the things before we moved that my daughter was getting interested in was horses. Thankfully, I appreciate that. Obviously, horses mean a lot in my life. I love horses. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was going to the farm with her and being involved with her in that and seeing her enjoy that. And so we're figuring out what that looks like here in Atlanta, and how that works. I remember the one story I've got, as I told her when she was younger, I said, go put your farm clothes on. We're going to go to the farm. And I went and did whatever I was doing. And I look, and she comes downstairs and she had her farm clothes on. What were her farm clothes? Well, she had a little cowgirl hat on. She had her boots on. Very much appreciate the boots. And a pink sparkly tutu and a shirt with a pink sparkly horse on it. And to her, those were her farm clothes. And you know what? I still have the pictures of that. The memory, she had a big bow in her hair, and she was ready to go to the farm. She had a great time. And I was at a rodeo recently, the American Rodeo in Texas. One of the cool things about this rodeo is they have amateurs that can compete at different parts of this. In the barrel racing, 3 of the competitors were 11, 12, and 13 years old. And these were young girls that were competing against the best in the world. And what was so awesome to me, not only was watching them compete and do well, but their dads walked them and their horses out into what they call the alley before the horses run and do the barrel pattern. And I watched the dads, and they were riding those horses as the daughters were riding them. And I could see like all those hours behind the wheel of a trucking trailer, all the time, the money, everything that went into that. It melted away when he watched his girl and go around those barrels. So it was pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to be bringing up, just the connection and the care that we have. And this can go even past coaching.
Sure.
Right? If you're a parent who just can show up at the games and wants to show up at the games. My wife talks about, she doesn't know anything about softball, but she is so into it now, and she wants to know all the rules, and she
Love that.
just is like diving in, doesn't want to miss a game ever. And again, I just think it sends such a nice message to the kids, like, what you do matters. We will sit in restaurants and try and position the kids so that they're not facing the TVs. But when the softball World Series was on, like, we wanted to see this. Like, we wanted
watching those ladies compete in the college.
Yeah, and I found myself loving watching it too, and just thinking, wow, they all started with their parents on the field.
Well, and we're big sports fans.
Barely catch the ball.
Yeah, and that's a sport I've probably never watched a whole lot of it until my team that I liked was playing for the World Series. But for you, like, you can see the history. You can see all the things that led up to that point for those young ladies. I love that. So we talk about good things. Flip it around. Why may this not be a great thing?
Okay. The first thing that I think of, and I really want to call this, why might this not be a good thing?
Okay.
We always say that, but this one really feels like a might it not be, because
it also
might be okay, right? It might not actually be
sure
that big of a deal. But one of the things I think of, right, we're talking about always being there, always showing them that they matter and they're important. Sure, we want them to know they matter and they're important, but also, is there room for independence?
Okay.
What do you gain from having your parent there on the field, always on the same side of the fence? What do you gain from knowing sometimes I get dropped off to practice? And when I'm looking around, the safety of going over to my dad and
Yeah.
like snuggling up next to him while other girls are interacting and making deeper friendships. Yeah, I don't know. I think about something like that. What about you?
I agree. I think we teach independence in a lot of different ways, and I think you can absolutely teach independence while being present.
Yeah.
For sure. But there's also a level of teaching independence not being present. So I like that. I mentioned before that helicopter parent term, which could be a negative, which I think kind of falls in the same conversation. I think why might it not be a good thing if your intentions are wrong? And what do I mean by that is if you're doing this for yourself to fill a void in your childhood, your past, and
Like
pushing
living vicariously.
exactly. If you're pushing your child to do something that maybe isn't maybe I don't like softball, but I'll do it because dad's there and because he likes it.
Ooh.
That could be something that I think maybe might not be the greatest thing. Now,
I don't want to let my parent down. So
right.
I'm gonna keep doing a thing I don't like. Yeah, that would be a not
Dad really,
great dynamic.
Dad really likes coming to softball with me. I hate playing softball, but I don't want him to be sad and not have that opportunity. I don't know if that happens frequently. I can't imagine it's never happened.
Yeah. And so maybe to take that one further, why might this not be a good thing? If this feels so important to you and there might be a selfish aspect to it, are you also able to gauge whether or not you are good at coaching?
Ooh, okay.
Because I know there's usually in the leagues that my daughter's in, there's a little bit of a wait list.
Yeah.
They say, okay, there were this many teams. You guys could end up being assistants because even though you want to be a head coach,
Sure.
we didn't have enough teams, which means more parents want to coach than can.
So a wait list for parents.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
If you're doing this because it's important to you, but you may not actually be able to step back and say, I don't have the patience or I don't have the knowledge or time or temperament, whatever it is for this, are you taking an opportunity away from someone else who might be able to step in a different way and be able to thrive in that, or at least have a chance to thrive in that? And
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And my daughter's in coach pitch softball right now.
Okay.
So something else I think about is, what if you're not the best pitcher? If you're doing something that is making it harder for the kids, can you step back and say, I still want to be the head coach, but anyone else want to try pitching?
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, coaching, why do I like it? It's going to be fun. I know that you might very much enjoy it.
Awesome. I like it.
Cool.
All right. So today we are going to get into talking about father figures.
Yeah.
And so I want to break this up into 3 sections. The 3 sections today we'll talk about what did father figures mean for you growing up. The second section we'll do, are there father figures in your life now, even though you're older? And then the third section, I think is an interesting one today. I'd like to talk about what is it like to see people who are taking father figure roles in children when we are now fathers and we're kind of on that same level.
I like it.
So I think it'll be some good conversation. So again, let's start with talking about what it was like to have father figures growing up in our lives, but let's talk about what is a father figure? Why is that term a thing in the first place? When I think of father figure, what I'm thinking is a positive, hopefully positive. I guess it doesn't have to be positive.
It's a good point.
But a male role model, a male who takes interest in your life or plays a big enough role in your life that it simulates to some extent what a father would be.
Yeah, the role. Yeah. No, I agree. It's interesting you said that. One of the things that I was thinking about as we kind of were brainstorming this was, that father figure fills a role that's not being filled. But I don't know that I believe that statement either. What is a father figure for me is someone who emulates what, in my opinion, that positive father-parent interaction would look like. And I think that changes as you grow. I think it changes as you move through life. And I think it also changes as your potential relationship with your own father changes, whether that happens early on in life, later on in life, is never an aspect in life. I recognize that there are people that grow up without their biological father in their life, and there are a lot of father figures that fill that role. For both of us, our dads were both around for our lives growing up. And for me, I had a couple of father figures, and those were honestly driven by my dad's friendships. So my dad had a very close friend group. He did not have a lot of friends around him, but the friends that he did have were incredibly close to him and incredibly important. Two in particular, one named Jerry, who was a very close friend of my dad's and absolutely a father figure in my life. But the one I want to talk a little bit more about was Larry, who lived down the street from us. What was interesting about the relationship that my dad had with Larry and our family relationship is that Larry also had two young boys that were very similar in age, a little bit younger than my brother and I, who I consider his older son Brian to be one of my greatest friends. But Larry was absolutely a father figure, to the point that we really considered their house and our house community houses almost, both of us. But Larry had the confidence. I don't even know if you want to call it confidence, but Larry disciplined my brother and I. So he had that father figure aspect, but he also deeply loves my brother and I. And so
Don't those things actually go really well?
I think they go very well together, and because he loves both of us, right? And also I think my dad and my mom, but my dad trusted Larry in that father figure role. Again, what is that father figure? I think what's coming out to me is it's a little hard to define specifically what it looks like. It's one of those, it when you see it.
Right. You get to feel it kind of thing. Yeah.
But it's someone that I care about deeply, that I know cares about me deeply, cares about my successes, my failures, just like my dad cares about my successes, my failures, and was very interested in making sure that Larry was and is still a part of my life and helps me to grow as a person. That's kind of where my brain goes to a little bit from the father figure perspective.
Appreciate you sharing that. When I think of, for myself, father figures, I don't think of anyone with as deep of a connection. I think of people who each kind of played a little bit of a role, and what I think of more is like people who I admired. There's my grandfathers were some version of a father figure a little bit, but only because they love me and care about me and were masculine. That's kind of it.
But we talked about this earlier, of like defining our view of masculinity, right? We talked about that earlier. I think part of this father figure thing is also defining our view of what fathers look like. And I think that there are a lot of places, obviously, which we've again talked about before, of like what our dads gave us in terms of how they showed up as dads and what we wanted, and also how they showed up and what we didn't want to take from that. From other father figures, I've taken things that I saw Larry do, or I saw Jerry do, or I saw other people do. And I was like, oh, I love that. I want to incorporate that into how I show up as a father, and also vice versa. There are things that I see that I don't want to show up in those ways. And so I don't know, maybe part of this father figure thing, like you were saying, is taking those bits and pieces and building ourselves together.
Yeah. And so that's actually interesting as you talk about that. So I was saying there were other people who have like little bits of roles. Maybe that's what I was doing. Like I would take little things that I like from people. Like, there's actually, when we talked about humor, 2 episodes ago, like that, 2 episodes ago, the story I told where I was like kind of testing out my humor and said, oh, well, that brownie is horse manure. That person, his name is Ron. He was one of my dad's closer friends. And I feel like at a younger age, he kind of played a certain male, almost father figure kind of role. Our families were also very close, and I'm sure he was comfortable enough to discipline. I knew he cared very much about me and my siblings as well. I felt more comfortable to talk to him than most other people.
You used your good joke.
Honestly, I tested out my possibility of wanting to be funny one day. Yeah. Then I think of other people in some versions of leadership roles in my life. There's my rabbi.
Yeah.
We were a little close family wise.
Spiritual leaders oftentimes fill that father figure.
I admired him very much. There was like a confidence and a wisdom to him that stood out to me. Coaches, some more than others, which we could talk about the good and the bad. But like the ones that I think of now are the ones that made me feel excited to play and feel like I could be good at this. And actually that hate them for that because I was not good at this. And maybe if I never had a good coach, I would have just
Quit it.
joined a swim team, right? We
Yeah.
can do a callback to last episode. I wonder something though too. What's the deal with father figures? Because
Yeah.
we must have heard the term like mother figure as well, but it's not the common.
Yeah.
term
It's
that's
definitely not
used.
as colloquially used as father
Yeah.
figure. I think it's a great question.
I wonder if it's like societal norms in some way. Historically, mothers were more automatically the caretaker
Yeah.
and more assumed
Yep.
to be there. And it was also pretty common just a few generations ago for fathers to be a little more aloof,
hands off.
and hands off. That's a good way to put
Yeah.
it. And expect a different dynamic than getting your hands dirty with the kids. And so I wonder if it was just it's so obvious. Like you usually just have the mother figure already. It's your mom. She's always there for you.
Right.
Or the mom and the aunts and the grandmas and the neighbors and all of that. Those women who are always present for you, but the fathers are out somewhere else. I
Yeah.
think things are for sure shifting pretty drastically from several generations ago, but still continuing to shift where it is more common that you can assume the father is around as well
Sure.
in a heterosexual relationship, that it's not so normal anymore to say
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, dad, he does the work and mom takes care of the
And I
kids.
think again with the changing dynamics, I think we're seeing that across the board. I think you can see the reels on Instagram and whatever, but there is data to back up that millennial and later what's the next generation? I don't remember what it's called, but that millennial father is more present, is
Mhm.
more of a factor in their child's life than ever
Yeah.
before. I wonder, is that father figure thing gonna change as more dads become even that much more focused, or is it going to expand? Right? I know that whether it's family, my brother-in-law and his wife, or others who we see, you and your wife, who we see on a regular basis, and it's like parenting by committee almost. I have no
Yeah.
issue with you
I feel
parenting
so
my
connected
children,
to your kid,
right?
Yeah.
Like I have no problem with you parenting my children, and
Vice versa.
and so like I think that I wonder, are some of these dynamics changing a little bit? And I think probably, in my opinion, probably for a good thing. I love the fact that I'm more present and visible in a much bigger part of my children's lives than my dad was in our lives.
I guess something to think about as well. There's different ways to be a father, but we are sitting here. We kind of signed on to do this project together, this idea of what does it mean to be more vulnerable, in touch with understanding ourselves from an emotional standpoint, and what does it mean to be healthy and masculine at the same time. Some of those stereotypes from the past are that men are not supposed to be what we would consider nurturing characteristics.
Right.
And I think it's easier to see men nurturing now, that you don't have to find what's the one nurturing man you had in your life.
Yeah.
Was he a coach? Was he a teacher? Was he a neighbor? Dads are. And so are lots of those people now in our lives. We're still trying to kind of push closer to that in some way.
And there's two powerful things there. The first thing you said is the nurturing part. I think when I can have my daughters see that care and empathy and all of those things are not just a female trait,
Yeah.
that's a really good thing. And then the second part of that is, again, as you've mentioned this previously, like I want and I hope as my daughters pick a partner later on in life, I hope that I can help them to see what a good partner looks like and how a partner should show up to them later on in life. And so I think it's not only our relationships with our children and that father figure type thing, but as we're in a relationship with our spouses, I think that can help them maybe to see what it looks like to show up in that regard.
Yeah.
So maybe this isn't a father figure type thing, it's a spouse thing, but I think it all plays into a connection there a little bit.
Yeah, I think it connects in a really big way because it is teaching something to the kids, right? How you directly interact with them, you can see how that teaches them something, and how you interact with everyone else around you teaches them. A waiter or waitress at a restaurant,
Everybody.
but also their mom.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
what is it supposed to look like when two people love each other and have a family together? You want them to say, I have some pretty high standards, but I'm going to be picking someone because I know
Sure.
I know how good it's supposed to look. I saw my parents did a good job.
Yeah. I
I
agree.
love that. Thank you for adding that. I think that's a really good point.
Awesome.
Cool.
So that's father figures of what I kind of the development and maybe,
Yeah.
the example that I shared with about Larry, Jerry, and others in my life. So let's move on to part 2.
Yeah. So part 2, we're going to talk about, just because we're not young anymore, does that mean we can't have father figures? And
Yeah.
I'd like to think that it might always be okay to have and develop even more father figures. I know for me, there's just kind of one obvious one for me. My wife's father, my
Okay.
father-in-law, has early on when we started dating, he was very easy to connect with. We felt similarly about his
You both liked it, right?
and his family, and he was not trying to run me off in any way, like in the shows.
I mean, you're a good guy though, so it's easy to see.
He was accepting and kind, and just like to talk and like to ask me about the things that you check up on with people that you care about.
Oh, he cared about you.
Yeah.
Right.
And then my dad died,
Mhm.
and he continued to kind of just be the same as he always was, but that started to mean something different for me.
Yeah.
Because now he's the closest thing I kind of have to
Yeah.
my dad. I don't even have uncles. I don't have grandfathers anymore. He's truly the closest thing I have to a dad. And then after that, we had kids, and I learned something brand new about him. So I guess he learned this brand new about him. He didn't know this anyways either.
Yeah.
He's a really, really good grandfather. And that's something that I admire very much, and something that we now are even more connected on, because we both love these same people again, more of them now. And I feel like that's an important role he plays in my life. And I don't think we have a very specific personal relationship with each other. We don't go out to dinner, just him and I. We don't chat so much, him and I, on an individual level. But when we're together, there's a closeness and there's a connection and an admiration I have for him that kind of fills that role for me in a very meaningful way. So I
love that.
appreciate having him in that way.
I appreciate you opening up about that. It's just good to hear all around.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I heard and I'm kind of hearing as we go through our lives, that father figure changes as we progress through our lives, right? So what do I mean is, when we're younger, it's like, well, it's like dad. Now at the point in our lives, we are a dad. It's like, oh, like I'm a dad, he's a dad. What are the things I can take from there? He's a grandpa. What are the things that I can take from there? And I think that as you continue to go through life, you're probably going to continue to change and see things like your peers that become grandparents before you become we've got some time. But I think that that's one of the things that I hear. So one of the father figures I think of at this point in my life, I think of the father figures of people that take on that role that don't. Not that even early on in life, like Larry, for example, he didn't have to take on that role, but he did. He had to. But now I think of more of these people that are taking on that role with my children. And the person that comes to mind is my mom's husband. My name's Mike. And my daughters, and we call him Uncle Mike. We call him Uncle Mike not because he shows up as an uncle and not a grandfather. We call him Uncle Mike because it's a brain block I have with my dad not being here. And him and I have talked about that. But he shows up in a father figure way to me and my brother, filling a place that no longer exists with my dad being gone. But more importantly for me right now is he shows up in that grandfather way to my girls. My girls love him to death. In fact, when we FaceTime or when my mom and him come to visit, I'm sorry, Mom, but my girls want to see Uncle Mike. I mean, that's who they want to see. That's who they want to play with. He shows up in that way. How he shows up for my mom is very important to me. I care deeply about their relationship, but I know that he treats her with every bit of respect and love that anybody else has in my mom's life. So I think that's where I look at this now is like, okay, who are these people that are showing up as a father figure? Like, they don't need, that's not their, Mike could absolutely love my mom, respect my mom, and be the greatest person. and not have a relationship with my girls. And you know what? I'd be fine. He'd be doing what he's got his own children. He's got his own daughters, and he's a phenomenal father to his daughters. He doesn't need to also be a great father to my girls. He doesn't have a biological connection to them, but he does, and he shows up that way, which I think is really wonderful. I also think about father figures now as my peers, right?
Yeah.
You being one of them, right?
Mhm.
And father figures that I want to emulate certain parts of how their parents, whether it's you, whether it's Brian, whether it's other people in my life, that I'm able to look at and take pieces and parts of how they show up with their kids and with their spouse and steal little pieces and parts of that too. And so that's how I think about the father figure role today. I don't necessarily think of it as my father figure, someone that I have in my life now that I can look at that, but it's for the other people and then the other parts of my life that I kind of see it today.
I like that. I feel like there's a humility to that, right? When we think about father figure, it's supposed to be someone who's one level above us. I think there's a humility to say, I can admire the people at the same level as me and say, I want to do something good that they can do.
Yeah.
So I want to look at you as a father and say, what are the things that maybe I can get better at by just watching?
Right. I also want to show up to other people, like the younger people. Again, we're not that old, but like younger people that are having kids. My brother-in-law, for example, I want to make sure that, again, I'm not a perfect parent by any stretch of anyone's imagination, but I want him to be able to see, oh, those are some cool things that he does as a parent. Can I take some of those aspects, or other people around me that are having children, and kind of take pieces and parts and parcels of all of that? I know you have your brother and your brother-in-law, both have young kids. So I don't know. It's just interesting. Like you said,
but naming that
there's a parody there, right?
Again, like I think there's a beauty that you're naming that the same thing, right? That's not, this is someone who's older and wiser, and so I should look up to them, but I still want to call it father figure because I'm watching them be a father.
Right.
And that's something that we can always learn from, is watching other people and wanting to have the humility that says, I can always do a little bit better. So
always
cool. I appreciate that.
The moment the moment you say, I'm a good enough parent,
you're gonna
need some work. Someone's gonna need to help you out there. And it's okay to feel good enough some days. Some days I don't even feel good enough, right? There's some days where you feel like you missed. And I think that's where you can look and say, all right, well, what are the things that I maybe learned from that other person on the days that they missed, or what have you? So
and so let's take a kind of bigger picture here for a second. Again, we're trying to make sense of masculinity. I think being able to admit I could always learn from someone else, there's a pride aspect to that can be then hard for a lot of people. And I think that's a very healthy form of masculinity to show up, to say, like, I can look at other people and say, I want to do that. That's something that maybe I don't do so well. I could grow from that. And, there's some beauty in that. I like that a lot.
I think there's absolutely the masculinity part of it. I'm going to call out my brother-in-law here again. I know that he has a group chat with a couple of other new dads. And I remember, this is conversations I overheard. So I apologize if I'm like misspeaking here, but I remember my wife asking about it, and he goes, yeah, well, we're like only dads. We don't know what the hell we're doing. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so freaking cool to me, because that's, like you said, that's a humility. That's I need to learn, but we're going to do it together.
And there's a vulnerability where you're going to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Sure, we want someone to be like, oh, here's what to do.
Right.
But likely there are things where someone says, I don't know what I'm doing. And the others go, oh my gosh, then I'm going to be, I have no clue. I still don't know what to do. And there's safety in that. Sometimes hearing me either takes a little bit of pressure off of, you're not doing something wrong. You're not bad. You're not deficient. It's something hard that doesn't just come naturally, maybe to most people. And I love that. Like, the community in that feels really, really important.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right. Well, let's talk about, we're kind of moving into that role conversation now. And so, as fathers, what do father figures look like?
Yeah. So thinking about what is it like for me to see father figures these days. And so people who aren't necessarily interacting with me or even with my children, and some of them are. As I wrap my head around this, I think I am kind of talking about it in a way that you just named before. You'll call these people father figures. I'll call them people who I see as father figures to someone where I want to learn something about them. And for me, this comes back to coaching, right? We've been, I guess, bringing coaching along with us throughout this episode. And this one is interesting for me because I look at the coaches and the way that the players connect with them, the way they interact with them, the way they respond to them. And I think, why? What is it about what they do? Because it's different for lots of different coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I think I'm noticing and learning from these people, I would actually kind of want to call them father figures now that we talked about that in the last section, that for me, these father figures are showing up and they're sending a specific message in how they show up. They're a little bit serious
Mm-hmm.
and they know when to turn on the likeness with like jokes and being silly, but they always kind of keep that level of we're here for a reason and I'm serious. And I think there's something important about that, right? Being able to say what's going to be the most fun right now would be for us to always be silly, but there's a purpose here. We have a shared purpose here right now. And I want to stick to that goal. I want us to remember this is why we're here. And so if you're talking while I'm trying to explain something to you, if you're missing it, I'm going to be a little bit hard on you. And sometimes I'm going to take you aside and I'm going to show you a few extra times. This is what we're doing because it really matters what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think, you know what doesn't matter? Any sport any kid is involved in when they're 7 years old. I don't care what they want to be when they grow up. I can't tell you that those things actually matter. What matters is that you're trying to do something.
Yeah.
And if an adult is sitting with you and saying, this is important, so I'm going to work on that with you, I feel like that sends a really meaningful message that you're important. And I don't know, that's kind of what stands out to me. I have more I could kind of talk about here, but I wonder for you, what comes up when you think of the idea of like seeing father figures these days?
When I see father figures these days, it's a couple of different places for me. I think one of them is the people that my family, my wife and I surround ourselves with, and the comfort that I have in them being around my children and how I feel about my children seeing them interact with their children, with their parents, being my wife and I, with their spouse, with others around them. Because if there's one thing I've learned about my children growing up, they watch everything. They watch everything and they hear everything. And sometimes that just is a funny thing when my daughters curse because they hear me curse and they think it's hysterical. It often is. But more important than that is they see these interactions, and oftentimes they see interactions that I don't even see.
Right.
And I've heard conversations where my daughter has brought up, oh, why didn't so-and-so do this? Or, so-and-so was talking to their daughter. It sounded like they were being mean or whatever. Those are important aspects of that father figure conversation. Maybe we're talking more about role models a little bit in this, moving further from there. But I think that's one of the things that I think about. Other places that I see this is thinking about college and some of the times where the students are looking not necessarily for a career role model, but they're looking for a place for someone to show that they care about them on a personal level. They care about their success. They care about their growth. I've had the opportunity to sit on a number of graduate student committees. And I think that there are aspects of being on a graduate student committee that you do have to have that father figure role, right? And like you said, there's parts of it where it's very much supported, but there's also parts of it where you get to sit down and have that hard conversation of, no, you're not doing this right. You're not doing what we're asking. You're not doing what's important to you to progress in whatever it is you're looking for. That's where some of that can, I think, maybe fit into this conversation as well as we grow and as maybe our parents aren't right there with us. Who fills some of those conversations?
I like that. Yeah, there's always guidance to be had. We think it always should come from our parents early on, but there's different roles where people showing up in your life and saying, I have some answers for you. I have some ways that we could talk about this. That's probably really important. Another thing that comes up for me when I think of father figures these days who are similar in age to me, is kind of like in a similar stage of life. One thing I think about is how do they respond in challenging moments? And I'm going to start low here, a challenging moment. I remember, I think we were hanging out with another family, and the dad, one of his kids said, can we go do X, Y, Z? And I was like, I know the answer to that is no. And he goes, oh, that would be so fun. We actually can't do that right now, though. And I looked at him, I was like, I would have just said no.
Right.
But his was so better. Right. They came to the same answer, but he made it feel like what you're saying matters right now. I'm going to first respond to the idea itself, and then I'm going to give you the answer.
I love that.
And that makes me think of all the times, like, how do we respond in challenging moments? How do we respond when something is getting a little bit difficult? When the answer could be no on the softball field, when something is going wrong. Like, I think about that as well. The umpire doesn't always get a call right. I think the right way you're supposed to put it is you don't always agree with the call of the umpire. The umpire doesn't always get the call right. I think that's the real way to say it.
You don't have video replay on your daughter's softball?
Not official. My wife did happen to storm into the dugout in the championship game and say, I have video of them touching home plate. Luckily, they still won, but yeah, so no.
I can 100% see you doing that. But I can also see this being a relatively new thought process for her. She's learning and getting so excited about softball.
I actually know the rule and you got it wrong.
I love that for her so much.
Yeah. But one thing that I think the good ones do well, I've seen it not go well for a lot of people throughout my life, but one thing that they do well is they show in a very clear way that they don't love it. They disagree with it, but not by getting loud, not by getting angry, not by cursing, not by taking it out on anybody, not even the umpire. And I think what they're communicating is we're good.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you look at me and I'll show you how we should be responding to something. If you get pissed off at something and you're throwing your hat and screaming, these 6, 7, and 8-year-old girls are going to say, is something wrong? Is something bad here? The next time they're at bat, there's going to be something in their eyes.
Sure.
But if you look at the head of your team and they're just saying, we're going to be okay, we're good, I think that trickles down to everybody. And if you're really wanting to do something and you ask your dad and he's going, no, right? Like, you're just like, well, I'm going to respond to that. But if he's saying, hey, that sounds really cool, that's a fun idea, should we try and do that tomorrow? Because that's not a good thing to do. I like that trickles down that clear connection.
I'm going to make a connection. Last week you were talking about the therapy that you do, and I'm not going to say this correctly, but you talked about the two nervous systems being near each other and your nervous system being able to impact other people's nervous system.
Co-regulation.
There you go.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's exactly what you're talking about.
I think I am. You're right.
In a broader way, like, it's not just one nervous system affects one nervous system affecting maybe a group of 6 or 7 of them. And so I think that again,
I love it.
That might not be right.
Yeah.
But I think I hear that, right? And I think that that's 100% a father figure appropriate type of this conversation where it's a response. You're learning that response. You're learning how to respond. You're learning that, yeah, you can be upset with a situation, but you're not going to take it out on the umpire. You're not going to take it out on your kid coming up to you after you've been at the pool all day long. Your kid got ice cream. Your kid got soda. They've been playing in the pool for 6 hours.
And they say, can I have a cookie?
What are we doing next? What are we doing next? I'm taking a nap. That's what we're doing next, right? Right. But again, it's how do you respond?
Yeah.
And how does that response happen? So I love that you brought that up, and hopefully that connection makes some sort of sense. I do listen every so often.
Yeah, I love that. I think that that's exactly what it is. Co-regulation. It's saying, no matter what's happening right now, I'm showing you that we can be okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay okay. You can come join me here.
Right.
Come be okay with me.
I love that. I really, really love that. Awesome.
Yeah. I have a million different ones. Like,
Sure.
I think about, like, what about when we make mistakes and do we apologize, or a million different things that I could go to. But I think the ones we talked about today were pretty good.
Yeah.
Just this idea of father figure. I think we talked about role models in the past. We talked about our dads. We talked about being dads, all that. Everything does connect. But I don't know, as Father's Day is coming up, it's cool to be thinking about men in our lives, men who have been in our lives, men who are in the lives of the people who we care about, and how do they show up in a way that shows a safety, a healthy version of masculinity that says you're allowed to be treated the way you deserve, and in hard moments, you're going to be okay because you're not alone.
I appreciate that.
I like that.
Well, as we get close to Father's Day, I mean, Father's Day, Frank, it's hard for me. I know it's hard for you. It's hard. It's a complicated day, but I can say with full honesty that the father figures in my life have helped me to make it a meaningful day still. Yes, obviously it's meaningful for my daughters and my wife to make me feel like Father's Day means a lot. But there, again, there obviously is that part that's missing, but at least a tiny grain of that can be filled with some of those father figures. So appreciate those people that have filled that for me, for others that are listening. If you see yourself as a father figure,
Yeah.
keep it up. That's awesome. I love it.
And again, happy Father's Day
Yeah.
to everyone. And thank you for what you guys do for us,
Absolutely.
for everyone.
All right. Ask a therapist, ask a regular guy. We got a question.
Yes, you did. You're
I
gonna
posed a question for you. So again, appreciate everybody who's reaching out and helping us out with this segment. So I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit. I'll probably expand where I shouldn't expand. But anyway, going to therapy, and I know in therapy you're not supposed to be trying to be right or wrong. That there's probably shades of gray. But what happens when I know I'm right in a situation? Is how do you move forward with that in therapy? What's the methodology? What's the goals there? How do you make that work?
Yeah, what happens when I know I'm right? They're
Yeah.
asking. I like that. I think you should still go first here. What happens when someone knows they're right in therapy?
Yeah.
But we've been doing this stuff and therapists keep saying it's not about who's right and who's wrong.
I mean, I think, and again, I'm coming from a place again. I've been in marriage therapy, married to one, best friends with one. Anyway, I still feel like I'm right sometimes.
Okay.
I still feel like, and I think what's been an important revelation to me, I can feel like I'm 100% right, but that doesn't mean that my spouse is wrong. My reality is my reality. Her reality is also her reality. And that doesn't mean that one of our realities is false. Maybe both of our realities is probably not 100% true to the other one, but it doesn't mean that the other person is wrong. It's not necessarily making that conversation in my head easier of saying, well, I know I'm right, you're wrong. But I think that that's how I kind of reconcile this with myself is I can be right. It doesn't mean that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, therapist it up here.
I like that. I feel like in some way you're talking about there's always three sides to the story.
There you go.
My side, your side, and the actual truth.
True.
But yeah, I can be right. That doesn't mean that they're wrong. If someone is right and someone is wrong, like
You're a therapist. Have you
factually-
told someone they're wrong before in therapy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have. Sometimes people say, I didn't say that. Like, we're like, you just said 5 minutes ago, this isn't right. I didn't say that. I'm like, you did. I was here. Like, when it's that clear, I will for sure say, no. You know,
But I think it's an important thing, right? Like, we're not talking about gaslighting. We're not talking about changing stories. We're not talking about, making something up that's not true.
right. It's okay to say,
Call it out.
I guess I didn't remember it that way.
Sure.
But not as invalidating. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
So I feel like what this person's talking, I feel like what you're kind of talking about here too is this idea of, I know I'm right. My partner thinks they're right. What do we do about it? I think the more we try and get to the bottom of who's right and who's wrong, the reason that we're trying to stay away from that is because that is setting the relationship up between two opponents. If someone's right and someone's wrong, someone wins, someone loses, someone's good, someone's bad, the relationship loses no matter what. And even if you were the winner, you lose because you're in that relationship. You don't feel more connected. You don't feel understood. You don't feel closer to your partner. You just defeated an opponent in a
Interesting
debate match or something. And
which is good sometimes. Why?
but does it feel good when the person that you defeated in the debate match is also the person you love and they're like on the couch, not making eye contact with you? That doesn't feel good. Exactly. And so that's where we have to be centering this around what is actually at stake here right now.
Okay.
What's at stake is the connection in the relationship. And again, if there's like an important fact that needs to be cleared up, I think it is important to decide what is right and what is wrong there. But when we're saying my idea is right and your idea is wrong, what we should do with this situation or decision is right and yours is wrong, that's where I think this can be really important to be able to see this isn't, how do we keep this as partners who want to be connected?
Mhm.
And I like the way you said, I can be right. That doesn't mean that she's wrong. I think the way to go one deeper in that is, I know that how I feel about this is right.
Mhm.
That also means that how she feels about this is right for her. This is right for me. That's right for her. If we can get clear on those things, nobody has to win. Nobody has to lose. We will just know each other a little bit more and be able to know what this means to my partner.
Gotcha.
Why is this so painful for you, so scary for you, so different than it is for me?
So it's not necessarily
Yeah.
a singular thing that it maybe is the focus of the argument.
It's how's it impacting
Right.
you?
Right.
Yeah, that's always what matters. It's the impact of something more than the intention, basically. And the more that we can know, okay, this is what this means to my partner. I also want them to know what it means to me.
Right.
If you're getting connected over that, if you care, if it's okay to validate and empathize with someone who is struggling with something, even though you have a very different feeling about it, you're making it safe for this to be something that is not about winning or losing. It's about saying, okay, well, I don't want you to feel that way.
Yeah.
I can show up differently, help you, because now I know how I make you feel in that situation. I'm not saying, fine, you're right, and I'm wrong.
Right.
I'm saying, well, the thing that feels most right to me is how much you matter to me. And I want to show up for that.
Interesting.
And so if we fully take away who's right and wrong,
Yeah.
it's easier to just show up for the person.
I like that. Take that layer apart from it.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's
I
what
like
comes
that.
up for me. That's a good question. I like
That's a good
that.
question. Yeah, it's a hard one, right? Because again, sometimes you can get very caught up in I'm right, therefore the other person's wrong. That's that conviction. That's what that is.
Yeah.
And I like how you're taking that level away from it. You're making it less about the specific situation, more about the person, more about the feeling, more about the true nature of what the conversation should be about. So
Yeah.
and
when you were talking about it, I was like, oh, this is like hitting kind of close to Bobby. And I was thinking, honestly, like, this kind of hits close to me too. I imagine most people listening to this hits close to her. They're like, oh, sometimes I'm right. And sometimes they shouldn't feel that way about that thing because I know I'm right. And like, that's, it's,
I like being right just as much as the next person does.
Yeah.
And I hate being wrong.
Everyone likes feeling connected to the person they love, and no one likes feeling disconnected to that person.
That's true.
So that's
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Appreciate sending the question. You want to reach out to us on Instagram, Man Up Together Podcast. Email us questions at manuptogetherpodcast.com. Like Alex said, subscribe, comment on YouTube, watch with your friends. But if you're watching with your friends, watch it on two screens. Give us those 2 views.
That's right.
But any way that you're listening, we very much appreciate you. We very much value the time that you're taking to man up together with us. So thank you.
That's right. Thank you. Happy Father's Day. And we will look forward to seeing you next week when we continue to try and man up together.
The Man Up Together podcast was produced and edited by Alex Peskin and Bobby Jacobs. Special thank you to our wives, family, friends, and coworkers who have supported us in so many ways throughout this process. You can find us on Instagram at Man Up Together Podcast, and you can email us at questions@manuptogetherpodcast.com. If you are interested in joining us on this journey, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone you care about. Thank you for listening. See you next week.